This is episode 14, people. We are back.
14.
It is evening time here filming this. Man.
And it's a hot one, too. And I don't mean because of the temperature outside. I mean, we got some hot information to go over with you guys. So welcome back, Alpha Mentality. Hey, there's so much great reception from what we're doing. You know, we've had a chance to kind of travel around, and some people are just, it's overwhelming, you know?
It is.
I go, dang, I can't really believe that. Like, we're really helping people, or at least some people get the idea of what we're doing and they understand what we're trying to accomplish. So if you are rejoining us, this is the Alpha Mentality Podcast. I'm Otis Bird. This is
Jeff Nadal.
So, partner, we've getting ready to wrap up season 1 here.
Yep.
What's some highlights so far?
The text messages that we get late at night. And I don't mean by females or males, but I mean by listeners. I think a lot of people either listen to us early in the morning, late at night. It's funny. One of my teacher friends that actually moved out to New York, she asked us to move the drop time to midnight so she can listen to it on her way to the gym in the morning.
Sorry that we haven't been able to do that. We'll try to fulfill your wishes. What's her name?
Diaz.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Miss Diaz. Yeah.
All right, okay. Well, all right, Miss Diaz, we're going to try to fulfill that, right?
Yeah, we will.
As we reach the world, and we're in many different nations. So whether you're listening to this and you're in Zimbabwe, you're in France, you're in Canada, we thank you all for listening to this because, you know, the idea of starting this was to grow it to where it is, to have enough momentum, to have people who can really walk into their purpose. And again, I'll say this. You may have heard me say this for maybe the 39th time. I'll say it for the 40th. This is a podcast that's built by real people for the needs of real people like you, right? So outside of the text messages, and you know, we get some great feedback on some of the social media platforms. What are some other things that you're finding that are becoming impactful for what we're doing?
It's helping a lot of people that we coach and mentor. I think that's been the powerful one. When you have people that you are mentoring, you know, hit you up or like kind of recite something that you said in one of the podcasts. Hey, man, you talked about this on episode 4 or something like that. If you're not growing, you're dying. Like that really hit me. Like, damn, okay, cool. And you get tagged on the quotes that we say on Instagram. That's really cool to me.
That is. And thank you guys for the love on, what is it, TikToks, Instagram. I sound like an old person right now.
YouTube,
all of this stuff, right? YouTube, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, no, it's really shown a lot of love. It's really blown up. It's really it's been incredible, man. Just in the last 14 days, I think I got like close to 500 followers.
Jeez Louise.
A lot of them are from the podcast listeners.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they follow you because of your sexy legs or your kneecaps.
It may be that.
Something like that, right? But, you know, today I think just kind of getting the topic, or tonight I should say, we process a lot of what should we talk about because, again, we just want to find solutions. And by the way, you know what's crazy about this? When we do these podcasts, these episodes, these shows, I end up learning more about like with the topic that we're talking about because I have to really dig deep. Do you find it to be the same way?
Oh, it's even when I used to teach, the way you teach a lot of kids is you have them. The whole point of a group project is you have the kids do the project and then they teach the class because those are the kids that learn the topic the best.
Yeah,
it's the same concept. So yeah, no, completely learned so much doing this.
That's so true, man. Well, I'm grateful to be doing this with you. We got one more episode before we wrap up season 1. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus. Sponsorships and stuff like that, they stalking us down.
Now we've been busy, guys. Busy traveling, busy moving. So, but we hear you guys. We hear the suggestions. So.
Yeah, we do. So, so today or tonight, I gotta keep rephrasing. If you're taking notes, obviously, you know that's great. We just want to share some experiences with you. So I think that the discussion that we've been getting a lot is, you know, how we started and what we're doing. And that could be in the conversation of starting the podcast, starting our careers that we're currently in. But we just kind of formulated an idea that said, okay, what can we talk about on this episode? You know, second to last episode of the first season. And I want you to write this down. Today, we're going to be talking about using your past to win in your future or win despite your future, right? Because I think a lot of us, we think that our past, it should dictate like where we are. Although that has something to do with how you're winning right now. How would you sum up in terms of like some of the things from your past that you've been able to use that really kind of give you horsepower in your day-to-day, you know, going out, building a business and being who you are?
You want me to give you a story?
I like stories, man.
All right. So I'll give you guys a story then. So I think one of the biggest things from my past that has really shaped who I am today, who I know I'm going to become, and the reason why I do what I do and why I work so hard is my pops. So my pops, when I was going into my junior year of high school, he was actually diagnosed with prostate cancer. Right. So that one kind of hit me right on side of the head. And I think at the time, I'm not an emotional person per se. Well, emotional in the sense that I do get angry. You guys, my wife, but not an emotional in the sense that I'm going to cry.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when he actually came into my room that night, it was kind of one of those things where he just kind of, it was real weird. I remember I was doing some homework on my desk, doing some stupid math homework. I hate math. And yeah, math only makes sense when you add dollar signs in front of it. But I was doing some math and he comes in and he's like, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. My dad never does this, by the way. Never.
Really?
Never. He'll never
like
just
no
come in.
serious conversation ever.
My dad's never been like that. Me and him mostly like we joke around. Like now we have conversations, but back then it was very lighthearted. Like it was real chill. So it kind of caught me off guard. Hey, I want to have a conversation with you. Sat down on the bed, and he told me like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I went to the doctor and I have cancer. And I'm like, oh wow. I was like, damn. And my reaction was so not what you would expect to hear that, right? Most people probably break down. I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, just kind of, I guess I was in shock. I don't know, man. I can't even explain it. But I remember him letting me know, like, they're going to do treatment. He doesn't know if he's doing the chemo. He didn't know his plan. He just knew he wanted to let me know he has cancer and that time is probably limited, right? So I remember him going downstairs. And it's funny because I don't think to this day he knows this. So if he hears this, this is going to be his first time hearing this. So he went downstairs and he was talking to my wife. And the way our townhome was set up was that we have a long mirror that, how some townhomes you can look down the stairs. So my dad actually angled the mirror so where you can see into the kitchen. Yeah. So I can see the reflection. So I'm there listening and I can hear him talking to my mom. And the one thing that I never forget what he told me was, I don't care if God takes me off this earth, as long as I can see him graduate from college, is all I care about. Right. That's all he cared. That's all he wanted to see. So I remember taking that in, and obviously it was my junior year of high school. So I wasn't one of those. I wasn't the AP kid. I didn't care about all that. I knew I was gonna go to college. I got A's and B's. Could throw a couple C's in there. But nothing crazy. But when I heard that, it made me work extra hard. I remember I had just my first year on varsity. I didn't expect to start. There were seniors in front of me. I worked my ass off that summer. That's when I finally actually got buff in high school. I started working out. And it was because of that, because I knew I have to work hard. I wanted to dedicate that season to my pops. Moving forward, I got to college. I got my BA obviously in the 4 years that I was there quick. And then I had my master's 10 months later after my BA.
Damn.
So 5 years of schooling I turned 6 years into 5 years of schooling, got my BA and my master's. And the reason I did that was because he wanted to see me graduate college. He didn't care about the master's, but I wanted to make sure I got that done in that time so he can at least see he did it. I'm good. Right. And now my dad, fast forward to now, I'm 29. He's still here. To be able to tell him that I'm going to have a daughter, is probably one of the most fulfilling things that I can probably say I've done in my life, because he will be here for the birth of my daughter, which is pretty crazy to me.
Wow.
So I think that's why I work so hard. So that's my past. And I think something like that fuels me to this day as to why I want to work so hard. So at least I can show him, hey, I hope I made you proud in the time that you're here.
That's incredible, because I think that's what we want to do as children. Sorry, is please our parents, the ones that we love. It's interesting to me because I know I share a lot of similarities with that in terms of your story. But I'm curious to know, do you think that a lot of your work ethic was kind of built in that stage where maybe your father didn't have a lengthier life than he does now? Do you think a lot of your work ethic was built there? And if so, do you find that's something that you can go back and just kind of go in a space if you ever need to get something accomplished?
I feel like my work ethic, I wouldn't say it was built there. I feel like that had a lot to do with the motivating it to come out more. But my work ethic was built from what I saw at a young age. My dad would wake up at 3, 4 in the morning, and he would be at work at 5 a.m. in the factory. And during summers, he wasn't one of those pops that would let me stay home. So he put a basketball court at the factory, and he would tell me hey, I'm gonna go to work. Do you want to come with me? I mean, me. We're talking about a 9, 10-year-old had to wake up early. at 4 a.m. to go play basketball. Now that's why I want to go practice. So the work ethic was always there. And what I mean by that is not so much me getting up to practice. That's not the point. The point is I saw how hard he worked, right? And a lot of people, what they think of is like, oh, well, when you kind of come from a decent background, because I didn't live a poor childhood like most people, like most people kind of, they have the story of like, hey, I grew up in the hood. That's not my story. My story is very different. But because of that, it has also fused me, because here I see someone that has money outworking everyone else. And he doesn't have to, but he did it anyways, which is why he got to where he was. Most people kind of make the excuse, well, oh, they have it because they have it. Nah, man, they have it because it busted their ass. So that's where my work ethic comes from.
What do you find is the most identifiable thing from that time outside of your work ethic? Were there any other things that were taught during that time? I don't know, maybe the value of love, maybe the value of time that you still use currently to today?
It's definitely time, because I saw how much time my dad had to give up. Right. So he was always the person that I never faltered for him. I was never I always understood, like, hey, you're doing it for us. Like, I've never held any resentment to my pops that he was always working doing that, because at the end of the day, he was the best pops I could ever had. But it's that same reason why I quit teaching, because me and Liz literally talked about, hey, when we have kids, do we want to be dropping them off at their grandparents? Like, I love my mom and dad, her parents. I loved her parents. Do we want to be dropping off with them, or do we want to have the kids here with us while we work? And that was always in the back of my mind. And I remember growing up with my pops, I remember one time he actually, this is going to be a diss to him, but he forgot my birthday. And he set up
Mr. Nadal, what's up, man?
He set up a business meeting. He had to fly because he had real estate in another country. And he set up a meeting, and he told me the date. I'm like, yo, that's my birthday. And he looked at me and was like, oh, wow, I forgot. Not going to refund the ticket. It was an expensive ticket. So he had to leave for business. I get it, but it's things like that I'm like, you can't get back time. So if I can make sure that I'm there for my daughter's, upbringing, and me be a part of a lot of that, dude, it's worth it. So I think time is the biggest thing.
Time is very important. I think everybody listening to this should understand that it's the most precious commodity. But so that seems like there's some things that, you've obviously can attribute to looking back in your past that allow you to make the space for you to, do the things that you're doing or the things you're attempting to accomplish.
Right.
A lot of people, they develop victim mentality. And when I say a lot of people, I don't want to characterize most of the people that are listening right now as to, all right, you have a certain past issue. It should make sure that it disdains your future or should disqualify you when, in actuality, things, they're created most of the times to help us and to push us. I have stories in my life for myself, and I hear stories of, people who are real victims of maybe childhood abuse or, God forbid, some illicit thing, with children in terms of, desires of the flesh. But I think that a lot of us, we have things that happen for us so that we can propel us to go out and go help other people, right? Because would you agree or disagree with this? You're the most qualified person to help the person that you used to be.
100%.
Okay. So a lot of us, we disqualify ourselves because we think that it only happens to us. Like I was talking to one of, I have a teammate. We were talking earlier today, and, we were discussing some of the things that were happening right now, just some of the turmoil. And this person was mentioning, all of these things that were happening just around their situation. And it made me think about a time in my life. My pops passed away in 2008 from cancer as well, too. And it wasn't like I hated the world or anything, but I did sink into a little bit of, I guess, what you would consider depression. And I had to remember some of the laurels and things that my father rested on, and he just kind of instilled into me. And I use that now, like the things that were gonna eventually be meant for evil were actually turning for good, and even my passing as well too, right? So I'm curious for you, like, are there some areas that don't serve you from your past? Are there some things that you're still trying to put the fire out on? Like right now, somebody's listening to this and they're going, I have anger management. I think a lot of people, we admit to
Yeah.
that too quickly, and you have no idea. That's a bad thing to admit to, especially if you've been saying the same things for forever. Are there some areas where you can say, "Hey, look, I'm still working on these." Give the audience the opportunity to kind of connect with you in that way.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll be honest then. So I think the area that I'm trying to still work on that I haven't got out of my head is that I'm not a people person, right? I tell myself that a lot, right? I'm not a people person. Like I don't like going out to like social events, social gatherings. That's never been my thing. But I've had to, in order to grow, I've had to get out of that mentality, out of that comfort zone. Because in reality, where am I going to find associations? It's around people.
Sure.
Right? I have to go to these events to meet people. Something that was never me. Like when I was a teacher, I would literally be in my classroom during lunch. That's it. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody, And that kind of isolation, it's not, for one, it's not healthy. But two, it doesn't serve you.
It doesn't.
Like it does not help you. It doesn't help you grow. It doesn't allow you to build a relationship with anyone, and it doesn't help you network. Like, you realize how much I could have been building while I was a teacher, but instead, in reality, what did I really build? I built a relationship with my kids, not with the teachers. So I think that's the one thing that I still feel like I work on today. And you would never be able to tell if you looked at our social media. I look like the most like
lovable guy.
Yeah, like and that's probably really my personality. It's just I need to get out of my own head.
Absolutely, because I know you.
Yeah,
like there's no way we would attach, because of my past. By the way, so where I grew up, I had to be a little tougher. Okay, like most boys do. You grow up. Sometimes you may have a bully. I think I had a bully when I was like 8 or 9 or something. And I remember just always having to find a way to define myself as not being somebody that could be bullied. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Growing up, I was in my neighborhood, like an African American community. You get judged based on if you're light skinned or you're dark skinned, right? And they take, if you're light skinned, you're typically weak, right? Because you're a handsome guy, in my case, But what's interesting is that's kind of like the stigma that plays out. So, I was always a nice person. I wanted to kind of, be the life of the party. And that stuff used to plague me because I used to get into a lot of fights growing up. And it wasn't because I would look for trouble. So it made me tough naturally. And then every time I was around people would kind of give off like this bad aura, this bad energy. In fact, I had this teacher in the 7th grade. I think his name was Mr. Keeley. And he was like a student aid teacher. So Mr. Keeley, if you're listening, man, like I'm telling you
here.
I remember you. And thank you because you helped me thrive, right? Because what was meant for bad at that time, I've turned for good. And he told me this. I still remember the conversation. I was my 7th grade year, I was a horrible student. I was a horrible kid. I was fighting every day. I was getting suspended. I was flunking out of classes. Like you would have thought I came like from a very bad household, negligent, but I didn't. And I remember Mr. Keeley telling me my personality was going to be the reason why I wasn't going to make it in life. I was going to create hard times for myself. And obviously I lashed out at him and I got mad at him. At that time, I think I got like a detention or something like that, right? But it's a little moment like that, and a moment of adversity is where my destiny was starting to begin to become shaped. Because you fast forward, my personality is the reason why I win now. Because I let the goodness on what was really meant from that message really stand out. Now, I train, hundreds, thousands of, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of people from time to time. And the thing that allows me to connect to people the most is my personality, So I really like us having this conversation because right now, what's going to be a key thing for people, we're getting ready to get out of this 2022 at the time of this recording. And a lot of us right now, we're having a hard time using what God gave us to be able to win. And I want to say that God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the call. So life is pretty interesting from these standpoints of using our past to really kind of give us clarity to where we're going. But I have a question. It just kind of came to my mind. What are some areas for you? This just hit me like a ton of bricks. But what are some areas right now, maybe, not maybe, that you can identify that they seemed like they were unusable, but they're the most used on a daily basis?
For me personally,
Yeah.
I think communicating with people, which is what I like the most. Because,
Really?
oh yeah, 100%. Because the one thing that I didn't like doing was talking to people. I like to isolate myself, right? Now, when you become an entrepreneur, you cannot make it if you don't talk to people, if you don't learn to talk to people, if you don't know how to greet people. If the first, it's something that always stuck out to me that my pops told me was that you only get one shot to make a first impression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that first impression now, I literally think back to like a year ago when I first started the dog training business, right? When I would meet clients, I was awkward.
Really?
Hell yeah. I'd be like, hey, how's it going? I would introduce myself.
What was your like eye contact all over the place or something?
No, so you know what? You know what's crazy is that my eye contact never wavered. That's the one thing my dad always told me. Look someone in the eye.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that crap. But just there's a different persona of like confidence, right? Like you're just talking, going through the spiel, and just kind of like it's a weird introduction. It's not like you're not getting to know the person. You're just kind of straight, cutthroat to the point. Like, hey, how's it going? What's the dog's name? You get what I'm saying? Now it's like
no rapport.
Someone comes through. Hi, such and says, how's it going? Damn, okay. We start talking. How was your day? What do you do for work? Everything. Like, that's why I think now the business has blown up so much, because the people feel like we're not training the dog. We're hanging out with the dog. Their dog's listening now, and we're having a grand old conversation. That's all it is now. And it's helped me so much in our financial business now. Like, what do I have to do? I have to talk to people about tough things or finances, right? It's a tough thing to talk about. Hey, man, you're kind of struggling here. Or, hey, we got to plan for this.
Yeah, you got
people
to
don't
break the message.
Yeah, and it's a lot of emotional things that you have to touch on, and you can't really do that if you haven't built a relationship, if you haven't learned how to communicate. So that's what I think's really 100% flipped the switch for me.
Yeah, for me it was patience. I had no level of patience, and I still struggle with that too sometimes.
Yeah,
believe it or not, I may seem patient, but man, the internal battle of me ripping somebody's head off in my mind is like, oh my God, right? Because I remember, if I could look back, and the listeners right now, you could look back, you could see the cultivation of your characteristics being kind of brought up through different situations. So you may see, you had to have times where, anger really stepped into play.
Yeah.
Maybe you had compassion, maybe you had this patience things that we're talking about. And all of this didn't come together. Obviously, it's still forming.
Yep.
The puzzle pieces are still going in. But what is really need to be said is that all of these things over time, they've been building you so that you can reach more of the complete, more ultimate version of you. And I don't think that anybody ever reaches that, until you meet your maker. But what's really cool for us is to watch the skill sets that you've talked about in the past and the things that you've learned. And I hear it come through stories, the stories of the past and the stories of my past. And isn't it unique that we can use that together? And nobody would have ever thought that. I mean, at least I never thought that I would be running a podcast with you. It's just crazy because I struggle with communication.
Yeah.
And
I'm not a people person. Let me just stick a camera out here and let's talk into the camera. Bro, you would have told me to do that 2 years ago. I'm like, I'm not doing that crap.
Yeah, this guy's out of his flipping mind.
But the biggest thing I think about it is, which is crazy because we're doing an alpha mentality podcast. And one of the things that we talked about in the first episode was, you're going to watch us grow on this podcast, right? And it's exactly what we're talking about right now. So we're talking about where we were and how that has carried over to right now and how it's going to keep carrying over into the future. So now this doesn't happen, though, if we're not willing to change.
Absolutely.
Like, that's, I think, the hardest thing for someone to do. And I think that's why I struggled a lot before. My parents would tell me every single damn day, if you don't change your attitude, you're screwed. Every day. Every day I was a sourpuss. I just didn't want to talk. I was like, dude, you're so unapproachable. You're not
Jeff
friendly.
Was spoiled, y'all.
Like, you're not approachable. They would tell me all this, and I'm like, bro, you guys are full of it. Now, dude, it's a trip because I'll never forget when I was working my first job at Finish Line. My parents actually came to visit me, right? And yo, it is crazy. I think about this. My parents were behind. I'm helping a client in front of them, right? And I'm helping the lady or whatever, blah, blah, blah. My parents aren't used to seeing me friendly or smile or anything. So that's not.
This is a shock to them.
Yes. The lady just so happens to say, wow, like whoever raised you did a great job. Almost like tell them they're behind you.
What?
It was the trippiest thing ever. Like
what?
You can see my parents were like proud. I was like, wow, bro, what are the chances that someone tells you that and the parents are behind?
That just gave me goosebumps because
it gave me the chills
things
too.
happen on purpose. There's no such thing as a coincidence.
Yep.
And we confuse, our past and that moment of pain of maybe growing through a habit or trying to learn, at that moment, what we don't know is a learnable moment. But on the other side of temporary pain, you're going to meet your real self.
Yeah.
You went through all of that to basically still continue to build the building blocks of who you are now, Yeah. And me knowing you now would have never known that there was a problem with person and all of that. We get along fine. I mean, we've been knowing each other, and it feels like I've known you for forever, which is crazy to me to even know that was a skill set that you did not possess.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And now look at you, you're talking to people, you're speaking, whenever we're out, we're talking to people, minus today, our little conversation, you're supposed to be talking to that guy.
Yeah.
That's another conversation, y'all.
Damn it.
But it's pretty cool that, we get to do this and talk about things that really benefit people, because I think so much more than often, despite if you had humble beginnings or you had tumultuous lifestyle as a kid or maybe as a teenager, even a young adult, I think we just want to remind you that those things, they're happening for the benefit of you, because there's a process that's already been complete in your life. If you really think about it, we all are born with something significant, like a gift. I mean, every human is different than every other human. It may seem like it because we all have the same motions, but what's going to be really important is a culmination of all of these characteristics through all of the things that you've been through. They've built this almost like a creator player version of you, and at times like you're introduced to new attributes of yourself because you stepped through the pain, you went through the adversity. And if you've been through something in life, maybe it's, you were abandoned or whatever that is, it's so that you can do something mighty. You can lead somebody in some effort to say, listen, you are not your past, right? Your past was here so that it can define your future. And what I really like about that is that I could look back in my past and be so satisfied, because my mom, she'll just say, son, I'm just so proud of you. And in my past, I would just think like, man, how would I be upsetting my mom? Or how would I just, my dad, how we look at it. And now my dad's been gone for 14 years. And the cool thing about that is that it's not a day that does not go by where I know without a shadow of a doubt, if he had some binoculars or something looking down from heaven, I know every day, every single day, he's saying, damn, son, like, I'm proud of you, and I let things kind of transform me, man. So I'm pretty fired up about this conversation, just because
it was good.
It just lets us, vent from time to time. And again, we're, common people that maybe share some common thoughts from time to time. But I think that life is going to transform when you overcome uncommon thoughts and the environment on which you are being brought about these, unseemingly uncommon things. So I want to land the plane right there, man, because I think that the audience, is probably going to get a good dose of reality from this conversation.
You got to really see a different side of us today.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, but we're growing too at the same time.
100%.
I look back at I've been doing a lot of traveling like the last 3 weeks, and I've been having a lot of individual time. So I've been going through the podcast. Yeah. And the first, there's a few of them, I'm like, who the hell is that guy? I'm like, what am I saying? What's going on, right? Yeah. The continuity changes because we're getting more consistent. We're compounding and things like that. But hey, isn't it cool to watch us grow and grow with us and be able to share that? So I'll say this and then I'll let you finish. Hey, like, comment, subscribe. We love your feedback. We thank you for the feedback,
100%.
right? We thank you when you stop us and you say, hey, this episode changed this, and, this helped me kind of consider this in this way. Or even if, you and I, you know who I'm talking about, we've had some arguments, and not just one person, but multiple people, but just to have a discussion. I think that this is what the world needs, and we just want to transform that one episode at a time. So our last podcast is going to be wrapping up season 1, episode 15.
Yep.
We're going to do a mega recap, and we're going to talk about some of the highlights, some of the lowlights as well too from season 1. And
when I forgot what to say.
Oh man, that's so funny, man. We should have like a bloopers reel.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, we should. You guys should go on YouTube, by the way, see Jeff's kneecaps. But I'll sign off there. I'll land the plane. I'll turn it over to you. You can go ahead and close this thing out.
Guys, it was a pleasure. I think this is probably one of my favorite ones that we talked about, in my personal opinion. So hopefully you guys liked it. Send us a message, comment, like, subscribe, like Otis said. We'll see you guys on episode 15 to wrap up the season. Peace.